다음 토픽으로 넘어갈게요. 다음 토픽은 뭐죠? What's the next topic? Security.
Regulations and security from a reg point of view. So, my background, the Securities and Exchange Commission in the United States is the federal agency that regulates just securities and exchanges. Shouldn't have actually defined it. And I was there as the lead engineer for a quant group that was formed about 4 years ago, something like that, maybe 5 years ago, I think. And while I was there, the cryptocurrency working group was founded by Valerie. Valerie now runs the New York regional office's crypto unit in the enforcement division. So that's just like a touch of my background. I was there as the tech lead when this thing was formed, and was there kind of when the SEC got into thinking about how to regulate these things. I also should disclaim that the people at the SECs are pros. I think very well of them. We are all taught from day one on what to and what not to say and what to and not to imply. I'm not implying that I have any inside information. They're too much of pros to ever, like, Valerie and I can't talk because of what she works on. So I'm not saying that like I have inside info. I just have a good grounding of how the regulators think about securities. So it was the spectrum. This is the way that I like to think about it, and I've been describing it for about 2-3 years now. There is the obviously security category, and then there is the not a security category. Bitcoin was always not a security. It was not a security in a very obvious fashion to anyone who is kind of trained or really experienced in just securities regulations in the United States. It's just that the SEC hadn't said it yet. That changed, I think it was this year, when they said that it wasn't officially not a security. They also said a couple, I think it was 2 years ago, that the DAO is a security, and it obviously was a security. It was a thing that had voting, that was an investment, and that you're supposed to get a return on, that looks and smells like a security.
Out of curiosity, who has heard of the DAO, the DAO? So, this is a decentralized autonomous or distributed autonomous organization. I was in Ethereum tokens, but every token had voting rights on how it essentially was like a venture capital fund on Ethereum. That didn't end in, it ended in tears, let's just say.
Yes, there was a capitalization issue, I think. Yes. The DAO. Yeah, Ethereum's original sin. So there's this in-between area, and until the summer, we didn't know where Ethereum was. We knew that it was closer to Bitcoin, but Ethereum did a pre-sale that wasn't regulated like a security, and this is all US focused. And the reason that I bring up, or the reason that I focus on it is one, that it's actually where I have experience, but also that, and this question comes up pretty often, especially when I do this section, is that the US isn't the only market that matters, but it's very hard to get global adoption without the US involved. So what goes on there matters, it's just not the only thing that matters. And this question comes up all the time. So that's why kind of the US's take on this is important. The SEC came out and then said Ethereum is not a security, to the delight of many VCs. It would have done terrible, terrible things to the market had they said it was a security. I don't really know what that would have looked like. There is still this gray area of utility tokens, and these are most of the ICOs that you've seen. Some of them have been securitized and done properly, some of them haven't been. It's still unknown whether or not, when these are fully liquid and the project is launched and running, if they count as securities or not. And it's going to be proved out over the course of a few years through kind of case law, on a individual by individual project basis. And then there are security tokens. These are obviously securities. They have security in the name. And yeah, the other thing that when I do this slide that people seem to enjoy or get something out of is how one of the ways that federal regulators go through building regulations. And the way that they do it and the way that I was kind of taught to think about it is that one of the ways is that you say, we're going to go after the obvious crime and the obvious fraud. So the Paris Hilton coin. Like that one you go after because it's obviously fraud. or it has obvious problems. And then when you go and you get that case, you build some case law around it. And you can think of each thing as stones, where you're building out a foundation, and the reason you're doing it like this is because the courts don't know how to think about this newfangled technology. So you need to build case law to reference. So you need to do a case that you know you're going to win, that then adds an interpretation you want on the outside, and then you keep building that out more and more. So you do that, and then you do, I am so bad at pop culture. I've run out of names.
Nicole Richie?
Sure.
Is that what you were looking for?
No, I was looking for anyone famous who might do something like this.
Oh, I thought you were looking for someone related
It's
to
the
Paris
one who's
Hilton.
married to Kanye.
Oh, Kim Kardashian.
Yes, that one. Yes, and then you do Kim Kardashian.
I think she already came out with an ICO.
I think that she might have. I think the SEC shut it down. So you build out a bunch of case law. That's your foundation. And you use that to then build think of them like pillars for a wall. And these are your big cases, your big fish. And these are the ones that need a lot of case law behind them because the people you're going after, the groups, are very well funded, very well connected. So not going to get into who I think would be a pretty good target. There's a few big projects that raise a lot of money that definitely broke SEC regulations and the law in the U.S. I'm not going to get into them right now. And those are
very upset.
Those are, I'm restraining myself. Those are your pillars, kind of your structural pillars. And then after that period, and this all takes 5-7 years, you then put up the walls. And the walls are the actual regulations. And you build up enough internal knowledge of how the space works and how to think about it and how to understand it, that the regulation actually usually makes a lot of sense. And then you move on to your next thing and you build up your fortress. This is kind of the fortressy model of how you do reg. We're in year 2 of this process. I would not be surprised if next year we see a number of cases that are these foundational stones being laid. Some of them will be public and highly publicized. Some of them probably won't be, and they'll be settled. And I wouldn't be surprised if the next 3 years go to building out that foundation of kind of the easiest targets. Because what you don't want is to lose one of these cases and then have that interpretation be seen on the wrong side of a case. So you usually go after Paris Hilton and Kim Kardashian Quinn. So, things that you can stump regulators with for fun. One is if there's a bug and someone takes your money, has a crime occurred? If you have like your wallet controlled by a smart contract, has a crime occurred? My opinion overall is no, or at least not in the traditional way that we think about theft, because I'm the person who put my money out there protected by this contract. I very much opted in, and it is behaving as expected. So the nuance here is the system should have the ability to help you verify as almost ironclad as you can possibly get that it won't happen. And if it doesn't have that, then, well, that's kind of my choice for using the system. But if it does have it and it doesn't work, then that's the nuance part where I would actually really think about saying, you know what, we should probably fork the network to fix the problem, because we said that we are going to have something that, like, we're all working on this piece of software and it promised the world that it should be able to validate this thing. And it didn't work, or it wasn't totally complete. And at that point, it's time to think about, maybe we can try to go and fix this. There's no, liability involved. This is all warranty-free software, but it's from a moral perspective, it's when I would think about it. Otherwise, never touch the ledger with a fork. Don't do Ethereum Classic. Formal verification. I want these required. We have them in Pact. We open sourced that before consensus about 4 months ago, and this is user code formal verification. So you write the code that you want, and then you state your intent about how you think it should operate, and we turn the code and your intent into math and a proof. And then we send all of that to Z3, which is Microsoft's theorem prover, and that theorem prover goes and finds the first example where your proof, where your assumptions of how your code should work, fails. And it gives that to you. As a developer, it's crazy to use, because the computer is just telling you, it's searching an infinite space of possibilities and finding the one example where you're wrong. Both times that we've done new versions of the compiler, the developers have thought that the compiler wasn't working, this formal verification system wasn't working, because it turned out the code that we were using to test it on had a bug that we didn't know about. And it took us, both times it took 3 or 4 days I did it the first time and then some other developers did it the second time, to figure out that actually, no, there's a bug in the code that we didn't know existed. And the compiler, the formal verification system, is pointing us to it. And it's just so new. The idea that a computer is going to tell you about a bug that isn't there, that you aren't directly testing for, that it's just kind of crazy.
So if this is so fundamental, how come Ethereum doesn't have formal verification?
So they have partial, QuantStamp being the best example. The problem is that if you don't design for it kind of from day one, if you don't structure the system in a certain way, you're not going to be able to get generality for it. The reason that you don't have it in Ethereum, or that Ethereum will never have really complete ironclad formal verification, is the same reason that we don't have formal verification in Python, or really C++, or Java. Now, there are some exceptions. There are some little tools in those languages that you can use for it, but they're very specific things. So a good way to think of it is it'll be like it is in, let's say, C, where you can formally verify certain parts of your code in C, but for the most part, you can't do it. And it'll be like that in Ethereum, where you have formally verified like ERC20, parity, like a multi-sig contract, and maybe a couple others. It should be possible to make a formally verified version of those, I think, maybe. You don't actually know until you do it, but maybe. I'll give it like 60% odds. But you won't ever have it be a general thing. Ours is designed in such a way that actually you can have it as a general thing. And one of the reasons that you can do this is because we don't have the generality that Ethereum has for the type of programs that you can write. They would have a much easier time writing a maps direction plotting system, so that you could get from the north of South Korea to the south of South Korea, or just like 2 cities, and just do pathfinding. They would have a much easier time because they have loops, they have recursion, they have just a general computational layer. But that's not the type of thing you should do on a blockchain. You shouldn't be calculating that globally and replicating it. You should be doing transactions. So by giving up or making certain things more difficult, we end up with a much safer language by default that then is very amenable to formal verification. And it should be noted that the 2 former head developers for Quorum are now the 2 guys we have working on this, and they're very, very good because they used to work with us at JP Morgan. This one is the one that you can mess with lawyers and regulators with, the bottom one. So we have governance in our smart contracts. It's required. It can either be immutable, so this is like Ethereum. You say that this contract can never be upgraded. So let's say you put the quadratic formula into a library that people are going to use. That shouldn't be upgradable because it's not going to change. It's just the quadratic formula. This works for a number of different math functions and a number of different just kind of structures of things that are just physical like things that should never change. But for the most part, for things that humans are interacting with and doing interesting things with, you're probably going to want some way to go and fix a problem. Now, it can be centralized, like a board of directors. So this is, if you're going to do so Ethereum has sort of governance in that you can have a pointer to a version of a contract, and then someone can control where that pointer points, and it can then be redirected somewhere else. Now, this allows you to do an upgrade. This is how Bancor works, or Bancor did before they went fully autonomous, they had a controlled thing that they could upgrade. And that was kind of how it worked. The problem with that approach is that if I import your contract and you're doing that thing, you can repoint it from being CryptoKitties to being empty your wallet into my account when you try to actually flow through that. It's a huge attack vector, and that's one of the primary reasons why you either can have an upgradable contract, a bit of a governance contract in Ethereum, or a contract that can be imported, but you can't have both at the same time. It's just this huge glaring security problem. So Kadena gets around that by having just a fully generalized system. It's native, it's just supported by the runtime, and it can have a distributed vote You can have arbitrary combinations. We also have solutions for imports. But the key here is that this is a bit of an undecided problem that I think regulators are really going to have to get into, which is if I have the ability to upgrade a contract in a distributed, decentralized way because I want to, because there's a problem and I want to fix it, that also necessarily gives me admin rights, or that process admin rights, to change the underlying economics of the contract. And if I can do that, it all of a sudden starts to look like something that's closer to a corporate action, where you're changing the dividend per year or something like that, or if there are dividends, or how many tokens are issued, or how many are in the supply. So by giving people the ability to upgrade a protocol for security reasons, does that necessitate it becoming a financial security? My bet is no, but it's a pretty gnarly open problem that I think the regulators are going to have to look into in probably next year, maybe the year after.
I would personally argue it's like changing the wallet that you're holding the coin in. That's just my personal take.
Okay.
So just to reiterate what he was saying, what's really important is that each contract has on-contract governance. So each contract, when you set it up, you have to set it up with owners of that contract who then vote yes or no every single time there is an upgrade. And if there is an upgrade on another smart contract that it's referencing, your contract still needs to vote on whether or not you accept that upgrade. So with pointers, yes, you're pointing to a different library or a different account. In the case of the parity multisig, the library that everyone was pointing to, that got killed and that took down everything. Whereas if you have on-contract governance, you have that extra step where the owners have to agree to go with that upgraded or changed library.
Yep. The only thing I would add to that is that when she says owners, she doesn't mean necessarily just a couple people. It can be that it's a ownerless contract, and based on token ownership, you have a vote. Or it can be 2 of 3 people who are specified. Or it can be a mix. Or it can be that every Tuesday that is on a prime number, you can do the upgrade, but any other time you can't do it. Or that the last the hash of the previous block needs to be exactly this hash, and if it's not, then you can't do the upgrade. Or it needs to be the first half needs to be exactly this. It's totally generalized, it's totally general, which means that you can do really dumb things with it, but it also gives you the power to actually model governance as it's supposed to work. So I don't recommend basing your governance off of the previous hash. That is ridiculous, but you could feasibly do it. And the last slide, and this is just about proof of work versus proof of stake. And one of the core reasons why we really dug into doing research into proof of work instead of going after proof of stake, because we would have already launched our public chain by now. I have reg issues with proof of stake. And I've run this by a few people, more than a few people in different regulatory bodies. Proof of work, FinCEN has already come out and said that these are the people who are doing consensus are not money transmitters. They're just replicating the network, but they don't need to do anti-money laundering, know your customer, any of that stuff. Proof of stake, it isn't clear if that applies. There are 2 core problems that I see. One is that proof of work is inherently non-deterministic. So there's only a probability associated with a confirmation with a transaction. And because of that, it's very hard to say when the crime was committed. If I exchange money with some terrorist group and put that onto Bitcoin, is the miner that put that into the first block the one that committed the crime? Because they merely put it into the block, but they didn't actually mine it yet. Are the people that mined it, but they might not have, the problem is that those people may not have actually seen the block itself. It might just be a pool. Is it the person who does the block after that block, after it gets mined successfully and put on the chain? Because that person is just making the network go forward, and they didn't really have any part in this thing, but they're increasing the probability that it gets adopted. If you say that it's that person, then it's everyone in the entire network. So FinCEN had come out for a number of reasons and said that that doesn't apply. The other argument here is that proof of work is inherently censorship resistant, which is that you can rotate your identity as a miner every single block. Proof of stake is not. Proof of stake, you are staking for a long period of time. You can change your keys, but you can't change your identity. So it's going to be easy to figure out who is who on a proof of stake network. Now, the final problem, or the proof of stake problems, are one that is deterministic. I am giving money to get access to a flow of transactions that are going to give me a fee for validating them. It sounds an awful lot like a money transmitter.
And for those of you who don't know, a money transmitter is a designation in the United States that allows regulators to sort of put responsibility on people for anti-money laundering activities and to make sure everyone is adhering to them correctly.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And the last bit is that the group is small. So EOS, I think, is set to 21 max validators. When you have thousands of miners, it's one thing to say, okay, these are probably just doing a protocol. They aren't really just a small group that are doing money transmission. Proof of stake, fundamentally, you're never going to scale a proof of stake network very large from a single consensus region point of view on a public chain. The reason is just it's why deterministic BFT has such a trouble scaling. This is seen over and over again. So it's never going to go beyond, I'd say, probably 50 on a public network. Our private chain can scale into the hundreds, possibly thousands with the right network with the right hardware, but it's designed for enterprise. It's designed for, I'm running $1 billion through this thing, and it's between me and like 8 other banks, and we're going to spend the money to make sure that this has good hardware because it represents $1 billion of value between like 4 parties. So it's designed for that use case. It's not designed for, I'm going to run it on my laptop, which is what you have to design a Tendermint for, and so Tendermint is a totally different scaling parameters. So that's the gist. Happy to take reg questions or to revisit anything else.
Also, if you have any questions about things that we didn't talk about today, feel free to ask those as well.
오케이. 혹시 뭐 한국 지금 규제 상황 있잖아요. 지금 그거에 대해서 지금 궁금해하는데 혹시 그래서 말씀해 주실 분 계신가요? 지금 현재 상황에 뭐 좀 불만스러운 점이라든지 혹시 그런 거에 대해서 좀 왜냐면 미국 상황이랑 한국 상황이 좀 다르기도 하고 비슷한 점도 있고 그러다 보니까 혹시 Do you wanna? Well, yeah, of course. There's actually he's actually from the Korea Blockchain Association, so he's been dealing with a lot of regulatory. Update on like the situation. Right
So
now.
you just basically want to know what Korean situation is? Well, okay, that's right. Well, 한국말로 돼요? 영어로 어느 게 더? 그러니까 대중이 Who's my audience? You or the audience here?
Them, we'll get a translator.
예. 그러니까 뭐 한국 일단 먼저 인사 좀 드리겠습니다. 저 갑작스럽게 나오게 되는데요. 한국블록체인협회 김현기 전문위원이고요. 저희 협회는 일단 진대재 전 정보통신부 장관께서 계신 곳이 저희 협회고 좀 협회가 많이 있습니다. 뭐 지금 한 15개 정도 있는 걸로 알고 있는데요. 저희 협회가 2번째로 그 발족을 했었고요. 그리고 지난달에 저희가 자율규제위원회에서 자율규제 심사를 진행해가지고 심사 결과를 발표했었습니다. 너무 많은.
So his name is Hyungi Kim. He is part of the Korea Blockchain Association, and it's a second association in Korea to be founded. It's among the 15 right now. So 15 associations are existing right now, and so the Korea Blockchain Association has undergone a self-regulatory measure for exchanges in Korea, right?
Yeah.
And the results have been open to the public, right?
Right. Last July.
July. And
그래서 저희 협회에 그 속된 회원사가 70개 정도가 있는데요. 그 중에서 이제 한 12개가 이번 심사를 통해 가지고 자율규제 심사를 통과를 했고요. 거기서 이제 좀 말이 많았죠. 12개 심사 다 해놓고 모든 그 회원사가 다 통과를 해가지고 문제가 없는 거라고 너희가 확신하느냐라는 부분에서 좀 논란이 많았었는데요. 일단 현재 정부에서 그런 규제 상황이 없기 때문에 자율규제 말 그대로 저희가 스스로가 생태계를 좀 건전한 생태계를 활성화하고자 해가지고 저희가 자율적으로 마련했던 규제였던 것이고요. 거기에는 이제 여러 가지 심사가 있었습니다. 크게 두 가지였고요. 그 재무성 심사를 판단하기 위해서 했던 심사가 하나 있었고, 두 번째는 보안 이슈가 아무래도 크다 보니까는 어느 정도 보안이 잘 갖춰져 있는지, 그리고 그 보안을 평가하는 것이 저희 자율기재위원회 안에 정보보호위원회라고 있었습니다. 정보보호위원회에서는 유명한 국내 저명하신 교수님들이 다 저희 정보보호위원회 위원으로 포함이 되어졌고요. 그리고 여기 크립토서울에서 주최했던 아카데미아 및 블록체인 및 아카데미아, 예, 거기서 이제 김용대 교수님하고 김영식 교수님 맞나? 성균관대 교수님, 예, 발표를 해주셨는데 그분들이 이제 다 참여를 하셔가지고 심사를 하셨었죠.
그러니까 지금 자율 규제안이 나온 이유가 이제 규제 자체가 없다 보니까 이제 나온
그렇죠.
거잖아요.
예,
그렇죠?
예, 이렇게 나오게 된 거였죠.
지금도 현재 비슷한 상황인 건가요? 지금
현재도
현재도?
국내에서는 지금 더 심해졌죠. 최근에 중소벤처기업 다 아실 거예요. 중소벤처기업부에서 블록체인 산업이라는 것 자체를 사행성과 그 다음에 이제 유용주점 그런 쪽으로 좀 분류를 같은 동일 선상에 놓고 규제를 하겠다는 이야기를 해가지고 네, 매우 안 좋은 상황인 게 지금의 현실이고요. 거기에 대해서 이제 협회 측에서나 저희뿐만이 아니라 다른 협회에서 마찬가지고 좀 더 이제 업계 그런 이야기를 많이 내려고 노력하고 있습니다.
So, I mean, just to recap it a little bit. So, right now, the Korean situation is worse. I mean, it's very it's very confusing, and some organizations are trying to categorize the blockchain industry as being like a 유흥을 뭐라 하지? Like entertainment, kind of like gambling, kind of, so very dark markets, right? So right now it's in a stage where it should be replicating, following the U.S. situation, basically. And we've all been watching the TV에서 봤었잖아요. The live stream from the U.S. SEC hearing, was it? The hearing? It was live, and people watched it. I watched it like 2 a.m. in the morning. We were all watching, right? So we're all admiring what's happening in the U.S. side, right? And Korean politicians have no idea whatsoever. 지금 방향성이 없잖아요. There's no direction, and so yeah, we're trying to benchmark the U.S. case actually. So. 그런 상황이죠.
예,
네.
그나마 이제 긍정적인 게 저기 계신 분 다 아시겠지만은 이제 노원구에서 노원 코인을 발행한 게 있었고 지자체들이 그런 블록체인 쪽을 적극적으로 활성화하려는 역할을 하고 그 목소리를 내고 있다 해서 서울 코인도 지금 준비 중에 있고 또 제주도에서도 제주 코인을 만들겠다고 하는 게 그나마 긍정적인 요소인 거죠.
So one of the unique characteristics right now in Korea is that local governments are trying to implement their own coin. So like Seoul City government is trying to implement their S coin in their city. So the public policy, I don't know, and also like a district. So Gangnam is a district, right? And Nowon is another district in Korea. So they're trying to have their own district coin called Nowon coin, right? Nowon coin. And also Jeju Island is an island in Korea, and they're trying to have their own, Jeju coin. Is it Jeju legislative? Things with like coins, so it's trying to be very coin friendly. So it's trying to have like regional based, friendly regulations, which is I don't know if it's gonna work. 지금 it's in a very initial stage right now, and I think it's part of the political, interest in somewhat, but that's what's currently happening right now in Korea. Okay.
Question to me?
Yes. So it's very hard to get good information about how to think about pre-sales, securitized U.S. pre-sales for coins, so sale of future tokens, if offering them in Korea is okay, if it's legal, how to think about it. It's next to impossible to find any information. So, are they okay, a securitized pre-sale, or like a SEC regulated pre-sale, or are they not? And if you weren't here to translate this question, I would probably go another week without any good information on it. It's that bad.
그 부분은 지금 그 ICO 관계에 있어가지고 토큰화를 좀 이렇게 부분적으로 풀어줄 수 있느냐 그 질문인 거죠.
국내에서.
국내에서.
한국에서 없죠.
현재는 없죠. 없는데 이제 그 금강원에서 금강원장이 새로 이제 취임하고 나셔가지고 좀 부분적으로 좀 검토를 해보겠다라고 이제 공식적으로 말씀은 하셨는데 그 뒤로는 현재 아무런 움직임이 없는 상황인 게 지금 한국이
금감원.
ICO에 대한 지금 부분인 거죠.
그렇죠.
정부에서는 지난 9월달에 금지 조치를 내려놓고 그리고 나서 이제 금감원 쪽에서는 좀 부분적으로나마 시큐리티 쪽 토큰 쪽이라도 어떻게 좀 이렇게 그러니까 ICO를 좀 부분적으로 좀 더 세밀하게 검토를 해보겠다라고 얘기는 했었습니다만은 그에 대한 이제 움직임은 모르겠습니다.
금감원이 Financial Regulatory Committee 뭐죠?
아, 금감원.
뭐죠? 금감원 영어로 뭐죠? Financial Supervisory Commission.
금융위도 어떻게 되죠? 금융위는?
금융위는 Financial
서비스.
Service Commission 뭐지? There's many institutions in Korea. So the top of the financial regulatory organization, it's called 금감원. It's called in Korea, Supervisory Commission in Korea. And so the head changed, the director changed recently, and so it was a positive outlook for a lot of the ICO projects because he publicly said that he will try to seek for some exceptions in admitting some ICOs, but such like specific measures haven't been announced yet, which means it's still illegal in Korea. So
illegal은 아닌데.
it's not illegal. It's not legally. It's not.
Prohibited.
Yeah. It's publicly it said it's not. It's banned, but it's not legally banned. It's not legally, but so it's. Korean projects are, or even like, they're not allowed to. Well, they're not allowed. They don't want to have their ICO here. They want to have it in like Singapore.
But that's sale to the public. It's not accredited investors. Let's see.
Right, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's not public. So no public sale in Korea. Maybe private sale. That's case by case, right? Private is case by maybe crypto funds, but it's really hard to tell. It's hard to. So there's no ICO roadshows in Korea. It's very like hidden and also, and so very difficult question. We're all very
한
confused.
가지만 더 이제 덧붙이고 싶은 건 이제 국회의원들이 많이 의원 입법들을 내고 있어가지고 작년 올해까지 합해가지고 5개의 법안들이 다 올라와 있죠. 근데 그게 이제 뭐 국회 잘 아시겠지만은 상임위까지 올라가면은 상당히 시일이 걸리고 해가지고 그 5개의 의원 입법이 과연 상임위를 통과해서 리갈라이즈 되기까지는 시간이 오래 걸릴 것 같아요. 하지만 이제 저희 협회도 그렇고 다른 수많은 저희 지금 한국 블록 협회 저희뿐만 아니라 다른 협회들도 같이 지금 작업을 하려는 게 의원 입법을 계속 지속적으로 국회의원들이 입법할 수 있도록 많이 이 블록체인 산업을 그 정상으로 이렇게 끌어올릴 수 있게끔 그런 활동을 지금 지속적으로 하고 있습니다.
네. 아유, 감사합니다.
예, 이상입니다. 도움이 되는지 모르겠네요.
갑자기. 너무 갑자기. Sudden, So. Talking about the regulations part, he had to speak a little bit. I told him to. 아무튼 너무 감사드리고 저희가 규제까지 이렇게 다룰 줄은 몰랐네요. 그래도 이렇게 기술적인. I just have a personal question. So, what? I just want to hear a story from JP Morgan all the way to here. Was there like incentive to come out of JP Morgan, or I'm just curious about your personal stories. I'm just People are interested in your background. A lot of people. Yeah. So
Sorry.
JP Morgan.
Marie reminded me that I should be good at building community and put the slide up. So that's our Telegram chat. You can reach out to me at will@kadena.io if you have any questions. So personal stories, why we left and founded. So main motivator is that JP Morgan is not a technology firm, or at least a outward-facing technology firm. Banks in the US are realizing they are actually tech companies. It's taking them a while, but they're figuring it out. But they're not, their product isn't tech, their product is finance. So it's not the right place to push for adoption for innovative technology because the JP Morgan brand is huge, and why on earth would they risk it with a new project? So we weren't able to get a press release for Juno, even though Juno was blowing. It still does. Juno, which is 2 or 2.5 years old, still blows every other private blockchain out of the water. And this thing's open source. It's on my GitHub.
Oracle Labs is using Juno right now.
Yeah. So or we ran into some people from Oracle Labs. They're apparently using it. It bounces around every once in a while. People have continued to pick it up and play with it. But Scalable BFT is the production-ready one. And we just couldn't get any press release or really support out of JP Morgan. and we thought about trying to get an investment and spin out, but at the end of the day, that would have taken too long and we thought the market would have moved. So, and you saw it with Quorum, where Amber and Patrick had huge brands around Quorum, and they left. And why did they leave? Do you think it's because they were given an offer to spin out Quorum into its own entity and try to take it big time? Or do you think it's because they couldn't get that? So, that's part of it. It's just JP Morgan's the wrong place for it, but that core team is really good. It still is very good. I mean, between you have Amber and Patrick and Quorum that came out of it, Stu and I with Kadena that came out of it, and you have Brian and Joel with Monic, which is their consulting agency, came out of it. We're their first client. They're phenomenal.
So the lead developers on Quorum.
Yeah. So the problem we have right now is that no one knows Quorum's actually dead, or at least the people who aren't technical don't know, because JP still has some support. People talk about it, whereas we took 2 of the top engineers. The other top people left and did something that isn't related to Quorum, because they probably aren't allowed to do something related to Quorum. So they're just going to spend the next 6 months making it look nice, and then they're going to kill it. They're going to spin it out. It's going to be its own thing. Someone's going to get a promotion for being so innovative and visionary that they built this company and they put it out there, and it was this groundbreaking thing with great branding, great marketing, and then it's going to die. And that's how it's going to be taken out to pasture. That's just how you get rid of a project like this. Someone gets promoted.
But we wish them good luck.
We don't know anyone who's doing that.
제가 왜 궁금했었냐면 이 프로젝트가 그 JP 모건에서 나온 개발자들이 만든 프로젝트잖아요, 카데나가. 그래서 주목을 많이 받았었거든요. 그 외에도 그 앰버 벨댓이라고 혹시 아시는지 모르겠어요. 앰버 벨댓, right? 그 코럼 만든 이제 그 팀이 있는데 그 팀도 나와서 지금 is it Clover? Yeah, Clover라는 또 팀을 만들었어요. 그래서 이제 저는 이제 사실 우리가 is it Jamie Dixon? What's his name? The top. Diamond. Yeah, 제이미 다이먼. the CEO 예전에 그 JP 모건 되게 좀 악명 뭐지? 좀 있었잖아요. 말을 좀 심하게 하셔가지고 그래서 비트코인 이제 엄청 이제 비관적으로 보셨던데, 근데 이제 팀 자체는 너무 좋은 거예요. 제가 약간 이거는 좀 뭔가 모순 아닌 모순이다 이거는. 그래서 되게 궁금했었거든요. 그래서 안 그래도 되게 궁금했던 프로젝트였는데 이렇게 개인적으로도 스토리 알게 되고 또 기술적으로 훌륭한 게 보이잖아요. 저는 이해는 다는 못하지만 사실은 너무 진짜 봐도 다시 한번 보고 싶네요. 그래서 저는 이렇게 좋은 프로젝트를 소개해 주신 카데나 팀에게 다시 큰 박수 좀 부탁드리겠습니다. 아까 위에 그 이메일 주소도 이렇게 있고요. 윌이 아주 친절하게 자기 이메일 주소를 이렇게 공개를 했고, 또 텔레그램도 챗이 있고, 그러니까 많이 참여해 주세요. 그래서 많이 알릴 수 있도록. 이제 국내 처음 온 거라고 합니다. 그래서 이제 앞으로 더 자주 올 테니까 앞으로 많이 좀 참여 부탁드리겠습니다. 아무튼 좋은 날 되시 부탁드리고, 다시 혹시 궁금한 거 있으시면 다시 물어보시면 될 것 같습니다. 와주셔서 너무 감사합니다. 네, 안녕히 가세요.